Hey everyone, welcome back to another review. Today we'll be taking a look at the 2012 Carnegie Collection Brachiosaurus. This will be the first Carnegie Collection review on the channel, and since I love sauropods so much, I figured I'd start with this Brachiosaurus. Brachiosaurus is a very popular dinosaur, but unfortunately Brachiosaurus is very rare in the fossil record. Only a few very incomplete specimens are known, and most of the reconstructions that we see are based off its African cousin, Giraffatitan. Now, the coolest part about this Carnegie Collection Brachiosaurus is that it's actually a Brachiosaurus. This figure is based off the North American Brachiosaurus altithorax. Giraffatitan was known as Brachiosaurus bronchi, but a few years ago it was moved into its own species, Giraffatitan bronchi, and the main difference between Giraffatitan and Brachiosaurus is that Brachiosaurus had a longer vertebrae column and presumably a longer tail, and Brachiosaurus was actually much bulkier than Giraffatitan. So before we take a closer look at this figure, let's do a couple quick measurements. This figure is 17 inches long from the tip of the snout to the bend in the tail. Let me just get that bend of the tail into frame. If you account for that bend, figure is about 19 inches long, and this figure is just under 7 inches tall from the highest point on its neck right here. So Brachiosaurus was a very large Morrison Foundation sauropod, which is from the late Jurassic. It was about 59 to 69 feet long, so I'll put this figure somewhere in the 150 scale. I'm going to get more into about the scale of this figure. That's one of the small issues I have with this. I'll get into that later on when I go into comparisons. Now, going into the pose of this figure, it's sculpted in a standard walking pose. The neck is held down low with it slightly turned to the side. I would much prefer the neck be sculpted higher up. I would love to have this figure towering over the other figures in my collection, but for whatever reason, it's been sculpted with its neck held lower. It looks like it might be leaning down to browse for some trees, or maybe it's just craning its head to the side to look at a predator that could be harassing it. But all in all, it's not a bad sculpt. Like I said, I would much prefer the neck to be held higher. I like my sauropods to tower over the rest of my collection. Now moving on to the coloration. If you're familiar with the Carnegie Collection, especially towards the end of the Carnegie Collection, you know that they absolutely loved using green on a lot of their figures towards the end of the line, and this Brachiosaurus is no exception. It is a mixture of very light greens with some dark green mixed in along the back, and then even a lighter green along the limbs of the figure right here. And it's all topped off by this very bright red coloration. It runs from the top of the head right down to almost the end of the tail. I actually like the red coloration. It breaks up the mundane green, but it's a decent coloration. It's not my favorite, but I do really like the red along the back. All right, let's zoom in and take a look at some of the finer details on this figure, starting with the head. Now, the head sculpt is based off the Felch quarry skull, which is a skull of Brachiosaurus. Now, that skull is not assigned to Brachiosaurus altithorax because there is no overlapping material to assign that skull to this particular species. So right now that skull is considered just Brachiosaurus species. So when more material is found, hopefully that skull will be assigned to the species of Brachiosaurus. Now you can see that red coloration all along the head over that nasal crest. You got some gray around the eyes. The eyes are done in orange with a black pupil. The teeth are painted in white, and you got some gray along the mouth right here. And then looking at the head from the front right here, you can see that the nostrils are sculpted into the front of the skull, which is right now the current thinking of the nostril placement on this animal from paleontologists. And then going down to the neck, you can see a lot of folds and wrinkles sculpted all the way down the neck. The figure is very well textured. You don't see a lot of scale detail sculpted into sauropod figures. It's mostly just all folds and wrinkles, and this Brachiosaurus is no different. You can see all that red coloration going all the way down the neck right here. You got a very, very thick neck base, very well muscled neck, and then going down to the main body. Zoom out a little bit, you can see more of that folds and wrinkles, and there's that very, very light green that starts all the way down at the base of the feet, that goes all the way underneath the stomach to the back legs and down to about the midpoint of the tail. A Brachiosaurus had very, very long front legs, which would make it very unfit for rearing up. Contrary to what Jurassic Park would tell you, the front legs are sculpted very, very well. If my camera just wants to cooperate and zoom in, you can see only the inner thumb claw is exposed, which is correct. and even the shape of the bottom feet are correct. And then going down to the back legs, you can see the back legs are much shorter with just those 3 claws painted in, which is also correct. The body is very wide, very nice wide sauropod body. There's more of that folds and wrinkles sculpted in on this figure. I do like the contrast in light and dark green on this figure. I know a lot of people gave the Carnegie Collection a lot of crap for using the color green, but I think it actually works pretty well on this figure. And then going down to the tail, you can see that this Brachiosaurus has a much longer tail than you would see on most Brachiosaurus figures. You can see the tail just ends in a little curve right here. So all in all, oh, right here you got a little bit of a cloaca slit. So I definitely do like this Brachiosaurus figure. I was very happy when it came out in 2012. All right, let's move on with some comparisons. Let's start off a little old school. Here it is with the old Invictae Brachiosaurus. I've had this toy ever since I was a little kid. This thing is absolutely beat the crap. I have no idea what I did to the head. There's all like bite marks on it. I probably left it outside. My dog probably chewed on it back in the day. And here it is with the Papo Brachiosaurus, which is clearly based off the Jurassic Park version or the Giraffatitan version. These are 2 massive figures. This Brachiosaurus is a good size figure, but definitely these other 2 figures definitely do make it look small. And here it is with 2 other Carnegie Collection figures. The Camarasaurus and this big one in the front right here is their Diplodocus. Now, this is the problem I have with the scale of this Brachiosaurus figure. These 2 right here are sculpted in 140 scale, and for whatever reason, they decided to go 150 scale on this Brachiosaurus, which is a huge shame. I think these 3 figures would have looked absolutely fantastic next to each other if they were in scale. And here it is with some of Safari LTD sauropods, their Apatosaurus, Diplodocus, and Camarasaurus. I have a feeling that we're going to see an update to either Apatosaurus or Brachiosaurus in their 2021 lineup. I just have that feeling. We didn't get a sauropod at all in their 2020 lineup, which I was very disappointed about. So hopefully they can make up for that by giving us an update to one of these 2 figures right here for 2021. And lastly, here it is with the Fauna Atlasaurus, which is an absolutely fantastic figure. This figure was actually my #1 dinosaur figure of 2019. It's nice to have these 2, long-legged sauropods displayed next to each other. So final thoughts on this figure. I really like this Brachiosaurus. I think it is probably one of the nicest sauropod figures the Carnegie Collection ever put out. I love the fact that it's actually based off Brachiosaurus altithorax. Like I said, almost every figure you see is based off Giraffatitan. Now, the only couple issues I have with this figure is the pose is okay. I just, like I said, I wish the neck was held a little bit higher. And the scale. The scale is the biggest issue I have with this figure. I have no idea why they decided to make this figure 150 scale when the majority of the Carnegie Collection line is 140 scale. I just feel like that was a huge missed opportunity. But other than that, it's a really nice figure. And I definitely think if you're, like collecting sauropod figures, this is definitely a figure worth tracking down. Now, I tried to find if any of these were for sale anywhere. This figure has not been made in years. I went on eBay and Amazon, and I could not find one listed. So if you are on the hunt for this figure, I wish you luck. I have no clue what the aftermarket value is on this figure right now. So that would pretty much do it for the review. Right now I have no new stuff coming in. Probably March I should have some new figures. The new collecting should be coming out, and some new Mattel Jurassic World figures should be hitting by then. So for the time being, I'm just going to go back and review some of these older figures. So I hope you guys don't mind that. And as always, if you're enjoying the content on this channel, show your support by hitting that subscription button just below the video. Each subscription helps out the channel tremendously, and it's greatly appreciated. And I'll see you guys for the next one.